and thank you for joining us today for yet another episode of The Blue Flag. I'm the broadcaster, your host, and I'm going to be talking about something that is one of the most pivotal events in the history of American open-wheel racing. It's very relevant to IndyCar, and it is the CART IRL split of 1996. So, to give you a little bit of a history background, Tony Holman, a businessman, acquired the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 1946 after it had been in a state of disrepair throughout all of World War II. He eventually sanctioned the Indianapolis 500 under USAC, which managed the open-wheel racing in America. Eventually, Roger Penske and Mr. Patrick, I believe it was, created the CART League. The USAC and CART eventually competed for several years, but in the 1980s, they later reunited under the CART series. In the 90s, flash forward to 1996, Tony George had been kicked off of the CART board of directors for making several inflammatory comments about CART. Eventually, he decided to create the Indy Racing League. Mind you, CART was the Championship Auto Racing Teams League. It was an open-wheel racing league that raced on street courses, road courses, short ovals, and super speedways. And it was as popular as NASCAR is today, even more popular. Like, it had the same popularity back then as NASCAR does today. Like, it was that tier of popularity. But in 1996, Tony George decided to make one of the biggest f***ing dick moves of all time. And that was, he created the Indy Racing League. He tore open-wheel racing apart. Several drivers had to choose between either of those two. And that eventually resulted in the loss of popularity in American open-wheel racing, CART running out of business, and the Indy Racing League, the struggling Indy Racing League, was all that was left of open-wheel racing. See, here's what's even worse. He angered the CART participants by even requiring 25 of 33 entrants in the Indianapolis 500 to be from the IRL drivers. What? That's only going to decrease the popularity of the Indy 500, because then all the fans from the Indy 500, who are usually CART fans, are just going to stop going to it. Like, are you kidding me, dude? That's literally one of the worst things that could ever happen. Like, really, I am so mad by this. Like, Tony George, I'm sorry. That is an extremely jerk move. You never want to do that to anyone, ever. Like, really, dude? Are you kidding me? Why would you do that? Like, I'm sorry. I know I'm probably just repeating myself over and over and over again, but this was honestly one of the stupidest things that happened of all time. CART was extremely popular. Tony George made a competing series that caused open-wheel racing to divide. It fell, NASCAR rose, and now that redneck sport, that non-athletic sport centered around rednecks, is now the most popular motorsports league in America. Really? We have that junk as popular as CART was in the 90s? CART was actually some good stuff. IndyCar is good stuff too, don't get me wrong. Like, in the Indy Racing League, that was good stuff, but the creation of the Indy Racing League was absolutely ridiculous. He should have just stayed with CART, because otherwise NASCAR would not be as popular and open-wheel racing would still dominate in America. Now, after that, Champ Car was created. It essentially was the same thing as the IRL. Like, they leased the name IndyCar to them for a while. And so it was just the two of them. They were still struggling with popularity. But in 2008, the one good thing happened. They ended up merging into the IndyCar series. And, you know, that's something good. Like, I gotta give Tony George credit for that. Like, because the IndyCar series is coming back. Like, we're not where we should be, but we're not where we were before. So, I mean, I gotta hand him that. But seriously, like, the CART IRL split of 1996 was honestly one of the dumbest moves by Tony George. But yeah, he is just, I mean, that was a terrible move on his part. But that's just really something I got to get off my chest. But yeah, now it's out there. Whew, okay. I'm glad I could just talk about that, and yeah, I know I was kind of rambling on and on, repeating myself a few times, but I really just needed to get that off my chest right now. So yeah, there it is, out there in the middle of air with all those particles. Don't inhale that, by the way, or else you'll become angry. But yeah, that's my time for right now. I'm gonna leave you guys there. Just feel free to discuss it in the comments, discuss your opinion on the cart IRL split of 1996. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next episode of the Blue Flags.